of Kenya's foreign policy objectives in an increasingly complex international landscape. The revamped policy seeks to elevate and position Kenya as a core state in the region, a stable economy, and a premier investment destination, an exporter of peace regionally and globally, and a reliable partner in addressing global challenges. On state visits and official visits, Kenya continues to strengthen its established diplomatic relations with a broad range of engagements that have yielded notable outcomes. These include state and official visits to the United Kingdom, Spain, China, and Japan, and an inbound official visit by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, from 30th to 31st July 2025. That served to strengthen bilateral relations between Kenya and Uganda. The Joint Commission for Cooperation with Iran was held, medium-term review of JCCs with Uganda, and political consultations with Ukraine, Spain, Sweden, Norway, and Azerbaijan were conducted. Additionally, Kenya participated in the recently concluded Africa-Singapore Ministerial Exchange held in Singapore and the Second Africa Climate Summit held in Addis Ababa. We also participated in the TICAD conference. Kenya remains committed to forging strategic partnerships with various nations towards achieving inclusive growth, sustainable development, and shared prosperity. Your Excellencies, very briefly, on the economy, Kenya has and continues to pursue economic cooperation with various countries as part of the government's National Development Agenda under Vision 2030 and the bottom-up Economic Transformative Agenda, BETTER. Economic and commercial diplomacy remains a key priority of Kenya's foreign policy agenda aimed at enhancing economic cooperation, promoting trade and investment. And Kenya remains committed to strengthening regional and global economic cooperation anchored on frameworks and partnerships geared towards achieving sustainable development and inclusive growth. At this juncture, let me point out that the government of Kenya, through the National Treasury, will be engaging with the IMF so that we can work towards a new program. That is usually very critical in giving a very clear signal on the direction that the country intends to take on matters of the economy. Equally, we continue to engage with our development partners and other relevant bodies so that we can eliminate Kenya's sitting on the grey listing of the FATF. So this is something that we are working on. Let me talk a little on our national democratic credentials. In tandem with our democratic credentials and adherence to the rule of law, His Excellency the President witnessed the swearing in of the commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. The IEBC is expected to conduct free, fair, and transparent elections in adherence to the Constitution and the Elections Act of 2011. I wish to assure you that the Government of Kenya remains firmly committed to safeguarding this democratic process. Kenya's progressive constitution guarantees freedom of speech, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. The government takes seriously concerns raised regarding recent reports of abductions. As a member of the Human Rights Council and the host of the Sub-Regional UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Nairobi, Kenya remains steadfast to addressing these matters transparently and accountably. It is for this reason that on the 16th of August 2025, His Excellency the President appointed a 16-member panel of experts comprising of legal scholars and human rights advocates to oversee compensation for protest victims dating back to 2017. This is a testament to the President's steadfast commitment to justice, national healing, and the rule of law. And as the Principal Secretary did indicate, we have in our midst Professor Macau, who at an appropriate time will make some comments on this particular issue. I also want to state that formally the IEBC has communicated to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They would like us to syndicate an engagement between the IEBC and the diplomatic community so that they can have a separate engagement with yourselves. They are independent, but they want us to formally communicate with you so that they can give you a scope on how they intend to proceed in executing their mandate. So at some stage, there'll be communication from the Principal Secretary so that this engagement can be meaningful, constructive, and be able to allow you to understand the journey through our electoral processes. As you are aware, a case challenging the establishment of the panel of experts is before the courts, and the government remains committed to respecting due process. In the same vein, Parliament is considering the Public Order Amendment Bill 2025, which seeks to strengthen the framework for maintaining public order by ensuring respect for the Constitution and protecting public property from vandalism. The government continues to prioritize police professionalism and accountability to guarantee conduct of public order operations. The conduct of public order operations are within full respect for human rights and the rule of law. I take this opportunity to reaffirm the government's commitment to constructively engaging all stakeholders to foster peace, stability, and national cohesion for the prosperity of our country. On peace and security issues, let me pick out a few that are critical. Kenya's participation in the African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, AWESOM, underscores its commitment towards the pursuit of lasting peace in Somalia, while at the same time responding to cross-border threats posed by Al-Shabaab elements. Kenya continues to call for predictable and sustainable international financing for the mission, coupled with robust logistical support, force enablers, and multipliers to strengthen AWESOM's operational effectiveness. We therefore appeal to your respective governments to consider extending support to AWESOM. This is particularly critical. It's a matter not just of grave concern to Kenya as countries that border our neighboring nation, Somalia, but it's also a concern within the African Union. We know there is competition for resources, unfortunately for very wrong reasons. There's competition for resources in Europe in terms of the security challenges they are facing, competition for resources within the Middle East based on the challenges they're facing. And Africa has got its share of challenges. So clearly, there is an element of fatigue in how resources can be channeled to these peacekeeping efforts. But that does not mean that we should not raise the alarm as a continent. We believe that this institution is so important because Somalia has come from very far, and we would like really, if we can as a collective, help them cross the final tide of ensuring total stability in their country. So the intervention on this would be very, very helpful. I must say that one of the key recommendations in the TICAD summit, there was a very clear resolution amongst the resolutions of TICAD that support would be extended through the African Union for this fund. And I would like to call on other friendly nations to make commitments that can help us navigate this area. In the pursuit of peace, security, and stability in the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, His Excellency President William Ruto and President Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe co-chaired a high-level meeting of the EAC SADC initiative in Nairobi on 1st August 2025. The meeting endorsed the merger of the Luanda and Nairobi peace processes, and the leadership of the African Union approved the panel of facilitators' terms of reference, mediation design, and a joint resource mobilization strategy. Lasting peace in Eastern DRC requires a long-term, multifaceted strategy that integrates security, governance, and economic revitalization, and social cohesion while safeguarding human rights. Kenya hosted members of the high-level panel for the review of AU's governance, peace and security frameworks from 1st to 5th September 2025, a reform process chaired by President Ruto. This initiative aligns with Kenya's foreign policy principle of Pan-Africanism and underscores the country's unwavering commitment towards strengthening the African Union. Kenya firmly believes in an African Union endowed with robust mechanisms to effectively address peace, security, and governance challenges, particularly at a time when the global order faces unprecedented strain and collective action is at its lowest. Kenya has and continues to champion for peaceful means and dialogue towards resolution of conflicts. Kenya therefore endorses the declaration for implementation of the two-state solution conference held in July 2025 in New York. The declaration emphasized the need for collective actions towards finding a lasting, peaceful solution. Let me talk briefly around Haiti. Since the deployment of the Kenya-led multinational security support mission in Haiti, notable gains have been achieved despite the challenges faced, including the loss of lives of our security personnel. More recently, we lost an officer by the name Mutuku. They were involved in an accident in Haiti. The United Nations Security Council is expected to consider the United Nations Secretary General's February 2025 recommendations, which propose, among others, enhanced logistical and operational support to the mission through the creation of a UN support office in Haiti and the transition of the MSS mission to a gang suppression force. A decision is expected during the renewal of the mission's mandate, which is set to expire on 2nd October 2025. That is just about 2.5 weeks from today. The MSSM mission presents a critical and time-bound opportunity to reverse Haiti's worsening security situation and lay the foundation for a return to democratic governance. The sustained commitment and solidarity of international partners is essential to enable the mission fulfill its mandate. Kenya remains fully committed to the mission's success and continues to appeal for adequate and predictable financial resources, equipment, and logistical support from the international community. If I may just pause a little, this is 1 year since. Exactly in September last year, President Ruto actually flew to Haiti on his way to the UN General Assembly meetings. So 1 year today, the timelines were well defined in this framework. There've been challenges. Commitments have been honored in certain circumstances, and others have not been honored. But one thing is clear: a ray of hope has appeared for the people of Haiti. Schools have reopened in some circumstances. Critical infrastructure are operational. The port, the airport, some of the medical institutions are functioning. I also had a chance to go to the Dominican Republic, which has been very supportive in providing medevac facilities for the Kenyan police there. So there's a general feeling that there's indeed hope if we can all pull together and extend a hand of help in this area. So I really wish to appeal to you that strong support for clear clarity and support for the resolutions that are necessary become critical so that we can be able to move to the next level. For Kenya, one of the things that we can proudly talk of is that as we executed this mandate, 11,000 kilometers away, there has been no record of a human rights violation by the police contingent that is assigned to Haiti. Not a single complaint of Kenya's police brutality or human rights violation. So I thought I should emphasize this, because sometimes if you don't blow your own trumpet, nobody will blow it for you. So it is a good record displayed by Kenya's police service as they execute this international assignment. Your Excellencies, more than ever before, the global turbulence calls for intensified regional integration and an increased commitment to multilateralism and collective action in addressing cross-cutting challenges, including persistent threats to peace and security, the triple planetary crisis, and humanitarian crisis, among others. Kenya remains firmly committed to international law, established norms, and the rules-based multilateral order. While this system is not without its shortcomings, it endures as a vital framework for global cooperation. Kenya will therefore continue to consistently and resolutely champion for the multilateral reform agenda. Your Excellencies, the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly is fast approaching. This year's theme, Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development, and human rights, is both timely and significant as it affirms the enduring relevance of the United Nations in advancing the collective aspirations of peace, security, stability, and humanity. At a time of increased global complexities, this theme serves as a reminder that our strength lies in our unity, cooperation, and shared responsibility. This theme resonates with Kenya's priorities of promoting peace and conflict resolutions, advancing climate action and resilience, as well as fostering equitable and inclusive development. Kenya aligns itself with this vision and underscores the importance of revitalizing multilateralism as the foundation for building a more peaceful, just, and inclusive international order. In furtherance of the multilateral reform agenda, Kenya's participation at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Seville, led by President William Ruto, underscored the need for urgent reforms in the international financial architecture, domestic resource mobilization, practical tax cooperation, and long-term affordable capital, while reaffirming commitment to multilateral consensus-driven solutions that respect national ownership. In July 2025, Nairobi had the honor of hosting the 20th Ordinary Session of the African Ministerial Conference on Environment, reaffirming our country's role as a convener and champion of Africa's common environmental agenda. This provided a platform to coordinate environmental policies, enhance implementation of regional and global environmental frameworks, and strengthen collaboration to address the continent's pressing environmental challenges, including climate change, biodiversity loss, desertification, and pollution. Building on these outcomes, Addis Ababa hosted the second Africa Climate Summit a few days ago, aimed at advancing Africa's unified voice on climate action and sustainable development, ahead of the upcoming 30th session of the Conference of Parties, COP30, to be held in Belém, Brazil. Therefore, we call upon the international community to sustain its support and commitment to multilateral environmental agreements and other related initiatives that seek to address climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has submitted various candidatures to key international bodies, namely the candidature of Professor Phoebe Okoa for the position of Judge of the International Court of Justice, both the casual vacancy for the 2025-2027 period and the regular election for the 2027-2036 period. We have also the candidature of Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim Amin for the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, Executive Committee, Delegate for Africa for the 2025-2028 term. Kenya has presented its candidature for re-election to the International Maritime Organization Council under Category C for the term 2026-2027, my colleague, the Honorable Hassan Joho, Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, will officially unveil the candidature on 12th September 2025, to which you are warmly invited. We appeal for your valued support as Kenya continues to champion the strengthening of multilateralism. Let me now come closer home to the United Nations office at Nairobi, Union. Kenya deeply values the long-standing strategic partnership with the United Nations. In July, His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and myself visited the United Nations office at Nairobi, Union, as well as the Union's Green Building, which is a flagship example of sustainable infrastructure in Africa and a point of pride in Nairobi's positioning as a UN city. These visits reaffirmed Kenya's unwavering commitment to facilitating the operational needs of the United Nations. The government is ready to undertake the necessary investments aimed at providing robust infrastructure, a safe and welcoming environment for UN staff and their families, and a vibrant, diverse diplomatic community. Additionally, Kenya continues to advance Nairobi as a hub for multilateral diplomacy. We welcome the Gigiri Master Plan, a major upgrade of the Union Conference facilities built in 1985. The modernization was approved through the UN General Assembly Resolution 78/253. The Gigiri Master Plan is envisaged to expand Union's capacity to accommodate up to 9,000 in-person delegates at peak capacity. This reflects the United Nations' strong commitment to supporting Union, the only UN headquarters in the Global South. Kenya looks forward to the planned relocation of operations of 3 UN agencies from New York to Nairobi, namely UNICEF, UN Women, UNFPA, and assures of the government's sustained support for the Gigiri Master Plan. On this, we were conducted on the tour by Her Excellency Madam Bangura, and I can only say she deserves a clap for being very supportive on this cause. Further, to ensure the smooth working of international organizations in Kenya, we have embarked on the review of the Privileges and Immunities Act. This review is aimed at streamlining the process of hosting international and intergovernmental organizations in Kenya, incorporating measures for supporting and monitoring of their activities, as well as standardization of privileges and immunities for personnel of these international organizations and persons attending international conferences. This review process is set to undergo public participation, and we shall be coming to you, the Diplomatic Corps, for comments and contributions towards enriching the draft bill before enactment by the National Assembly. We really look forward to your comments on this. We would like to have the best practices incorporated and domesticated in our laws. So make sure your pens or your laptops are functional so that we can get your input to this particular proposed amendments. In line with efforts to position Nairobi as an international multilateral hub, I take this early opportunity to invite you to the following conferences and summit One, the 24th summit of the COMESA heads of state and the government that will take place from 7th to 9th October 2025 at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC Nairobi, under the theme Leveraging Digitalization to Deepen Regional Value Chains for Sustainable and Inclusive Growth. Two, the 7th session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly, UNEA, which will take place from 8th to 12th December 2025 at the United Nations Environmental Programme headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya, on the theme Advancing Sustainable Solutions for a Resilient Planet. Three, the Kenya International Investment Conference to be held in March 2026. And fourth, the Africa-France Summit, jointly hosted by Kenya and France, to be held in May 2026 in Nairobi, Kenya. Kenya will make history as the first non-Francophone African country to host this summit since its inception in 1973. The summit is envisaged to strengthen relations and Africa's voice, especially on global economic issues of interest to Africa and France. We have also engaged in sports diplomacy. Kenya is deeply honored to have co-hosted the just concluded African Nations Championship CHAN 24 football matches alongside Tanzania and Uganda. The CHAN 2024 reaffirmed the spirit of Pan-Africanism and provided an important platform for fostering regional integration, celebrating African talent, and promoting youth empowerment through sports. Beyond the matches, the championship created opportunities for economic activity, strengthened cultural exchanges, and enhanced Kenya's visibility as a hub for international sporting events. Building on the lessons and successes of this tournament, Kenya stands ready to host the Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON, set to take place in 2027. Your Excellencies, let me get to my closing remarks. In conclusion, I reaffirm Kenya's unwavering commitment to multilateralism as the surest path to addressing the complex challenges of our time. Guided by our national priorities, we shall continue to forge partnerships that advance peace, security, sustainable development, and a shared prosperity. Looking ahead, Kenya stands ready to work hand in hand with all partner states in a spirit of unity and mutual respect to help build a just, inclusive, and sustainable world for the mutual benefit of present and future generations. Once again, I thank you for your attention. I look forward to our continued cooperation. Asanteni sana. God bless you all, and God bless Kenya. And I'll make sure that the speech is shared in soft copy, because it was fairly elaborate. I think I have earned my stay on this podium. Thank you.
Another round of applause for the Prime Cabinet Secretary. I think he's briefed us on a wide range of issues, spanning the economy, political and democratic issues, geopolitics, peace and security. And through it, I think the constant theme has been open the floor to some reflections from a select cohort of ambassadors who may wish to engage with you. Thank you very much. Professor Makau.
Thank you, P.S. Karil. Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Your Excellencies, friends of Kenya. The Prime Cabinet Secretary has done my job, so I do not know whether I have anything that is useful to add. But let me just say briefly several things. First, I just want to say that Kenya chose the path of democracy and ratified that choice in the 2010 Constitution. That choice was about an open government, an accountable government, and a democratic state. But as you all know, the performance of democracy is an experiment, and it's difficult. But it is the best form of government, as Winston Churchill said, except for all the others. In the performance of democracy, one of the key predicates is the rights to speech, to assemble, and to petition. In our Constitution, that particular predicate is in Article 37. Since the passage of the 2010 Constitution, our democratic space has expanded, and with it, a penumbra of the rights by the people to petition, to demonstrate, and to hold their government accountable. For those of you who have been in Nairobi for the last 2 years, you saw in particular in 2024 and 2025, the earlier part of this year, demonstrations in Nairobi responding to particular government policies. Regrettably, some of those protests turned violent, resulting in some fatalities and some injuries of our citizens. That is why the President, in responding to those outcomes, appointed a panel of experts to design a framework for the compensation of victims of riots and protests, and appointed me as a chairperson of that panel. The work of that panel, which is diverse, it brings in highly qualified Kenyans, including lawyers, doctors, economists, and others, is to identify, to verify, and to determine the quantum for that compensation for victims of riots and protests. It's a process that will be transparent and open. It is victim-centered, and it will be based upon public participation. We intend to conclude our work within a limited time, which is 120 days, in which we hopefully will finish the exercise. I just want to say that in addition to compensation, my panel is going to address issues of legislative reform. There's some lacuna in our laws, and especially on the question of protest, to bring to life the scope of Article 37. We also realize that our police, of course, as the Prime Cabinet Secretary has pointed out, has performed very well in Haiti. But we realize that there are still some challenges with our police, and therefore we shall be recommending a reform agenda for our police to change the culture of policing so that when demonstrators and police come into conflict, that the kinds of outcomes that we've seen the last year and a half do not happen. We shall also be recommending, where necessary, the prosecution of any police officers who may have acted in excess of their powers. We view this particular exercise as designed to open a new leaf, turn a new chapter in our culture of policing, so that we can more effectively protect and enhance our democracy. So I thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Indulge me, Excellency, again to invite for just a brief reflection the Dean of Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Rusum. Please. Let's put our hands together for the Dean. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary Dr. Mudavadi, PS, my brother, Singoi Korir, PS of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, dear sister DG Yunon, Madam Bangura, esteemed colleagues, dear ambassadors and high commissioners, DGs, directors of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My job has been made very easy today because when I came, Ambassador Josephat Maekara, without even saluting me, he said, you will only speak 2 minutes. I say 2 minutes. Then I was afraid he might even reduce it to 1 minute. I said, okay, so these are 2 minutes today. Thank you, my brother. I thank you, dear Prime Cabinet Secretary, on behalf of the diplomatic community, first and foremost for your invitation today. This forum has always reflected the strong partnership between Kenya and the international community and your government's commitment to open dialogue. Today, on behalf of my colleagues, I extend our sincere gratitude for your illuminating briefing. We are assured by your commitment to regional and global peace and security, and especially our region. May I say Sudan, South Sudan, DRC, Somalia, and maybe some other countries. Your leadership in mediating conflicts and your principled stance in the Haiti mission are commendable and have our full support. We also welcome your focus on economic diplomacy, creating opportunities for Kenyans' use through investment and trade, in goal we share, will continue to support. Thank you, Your Excellency, Cabinet Secretary, also for outlining the vision behind the foreign policy review. this diplomatic community, the diplomatic community will remain engaged and be very supportive of these efforts. We thank you and your team, led by my brother Singoy Korir, once again for the valuable dialogues, and look forward to continued partnership. And finally, we thank you for inviting us for the various forums and conferences you have invited us. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Rosom, in his legendary sense of humor, never disappoints. Thank you very much, sir. May I usher in very briefly the DG of UNON, Her Excellency Zainab Hao Bangura. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for Bangura.
Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Mr. Musalia Mudavadi, Your Excellency, Principal Secretary of the State Department of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Ibrahim Kuriel Singer, Dean of the Diplomatic Community, Ambassador of the State of Eritrea, Mr. Ben Rosom, members of the Diplomatic Community, United Nations colleagues, staff of the State Department of Foreign Affairs, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I joined the Prime Cabinet Secretary to welcome the new members of the diplomatic community that have joined a growing number of missions in Kenya. I thank the Prime Cabinet Secretary for his briefing this morning. As you are all aware, this is a very challenging period for the United Nations since it was created after the Second World War. We are facing the worst financial crisis ever. But I do believe, under the capable leadership of our Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the coordination of the UN at 80 Initiative Task Force, of which I am a member, the Secretary General will present his report and recommendation to member states how to address this financial crisis. In this regard, I ask member states to encourage their colleagues in New York and their government to support the recommendations of the Secretary General. I want to thank the government of Kenya and the diplomatic community for your support to our two capital projects. You heard what the Prime Cabinet Secretary said. I am happy to inform you all that the first project for the building and rehabilitation of our offices is at its final stage. This will be completed on time and below budget. As a matter of fact, we will be refunding almost $400,000 to the United Nations for unutilized funds. At the end of this year, we will start the second phase, the Gigiri Master Plan, as you heard from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, for the upgrade and construction of the conference facility. The design work is completed, and the demolition of the original unit building will begin by the end of this year. We are closely working with the government of Kenya, as you heard from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, to improve services of water, electricity, internet, infrastructure, waste management in a complex that started with one office unit and 300 staff, and today hosts to 76 offices and over 5,500 staff. I continue to thank member states for your continuous support to us, but more especially to the UN family in Kenya, especially the United Nations country team who are going through some of the most difficult financial crises. And I continue to ask you to continue to provide the necessary support to enable them to support the government of Kenya in their development agenda. I thank you all, and I look forward to continuously working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Bangura, for your stewardship of the UN office in Nairobi and for your wise words. Your Excellency, that marks the end of these broad speeches. Given the time, I really wish to just open this space for a few interventions, not more than 5. Your Excellency, as you know, this morning I'm appearing before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee of Parliament, and I will be excusing myself in a minute, but just so that you can hear the voices of these great diplomats, allow me to just allow a couple of interventions. Let me see by a show of hands if there are any of us who wish to intervene. I see no hands, which means, Your Excellency, that you've made a very persuasive case. Let's put our hands together then for the Prime Cabinet Secretary again. Allow me then to convey our deep gratitude that you made time to be with us this morning and to listen to this briefing. Allow me to, on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary, to also convey our apologies for the late start. I look forward again to taking forward some of the recommendations of the meeting. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you.